Hello again. So we're going to go on. It's a little bit of a logical step from the previous presentation, where we saw the new development tools to streamline the development process. Now we're going to see. This is still about the Java 7 Digital Factory, what we've called the Digital Factory. It's another part of it. It's what will allow you to streamline delivery. All the release process is now simplified, and that's what we're going to demo with David. We're going to demo the release process to the App Store, the private App Store. We're going to show you that live and explain a few concepts. So just like the previous presentation, if you have any question, just pop in and we'll try to take them as they come. That will make things a little bit more interactive. So this is how we envision the module lifecycle. You have the developer machine, development environment, with the developer committing and updating code to and from a source repository. So we're going to see that we support Subversion in Git natively. So we'll be able to push and pull changes to and from SVN and Git. When the module is ready for release, you have the choice. The best choice for us is to go to what we call the private App Store. The private App Store is a new feature, and it will allow you to release your modules to this private App Store. This private App Store will act as a front end to Maven repository, Nexus or whatever you like, and it will allow you to expose all the modules you want to make available to pre-production and production environments. So either you go through the App Store, and we're going to show you that, we're going to demo that, but if you don't want to use the App Store feature, you can directly release to a Nexus or another Maven repository and use that without the App Store, and of course you won't benefit from all the features of the App Store that we're going to see. But that's why we have the two arrows, the two release arrows from the development environment, because you can completely bypass the App Store if you don't want to use it. So let's look a little bit at the different development tools that we support and that we interact with. There's Maven. You saw that in action in the previous presentation. Maven to generate, build, and release your modules. That's mandatory. We can't do without Maven. There's no way to do any module development without Maven. Git and Subversion for source control. We're going to see that in action in a minute. We are using the system binaries and configuration and the credentials. So basically, you have to, when you install your development environment, whether it's on an integration server or on your local machine as a developer, you're going to give the path to the SVN Git Maven binaries, and we will use your system credentials to connect to, for instance, the Subversion or the Git repository. So you don't need to, there's no additional parameter. It's not because you commit on your own, you're not reusing basically your Jahia credentials to commit. You're using your real SVN or Git credentials. Source management, so that's the first thing you're going to interact with during the development phase. You'll be able to pull a module from the source repository. You're going to be able to push a project to the source repository. And of course, after that, do essential source management actions, update, commit, resolve conflict. All this is built in. So David is going to show us that in action.
Okay, so previously we created a module, and the first thing we want to do is to link it to a source repository. So in order to do that, I will go back to my module, and I will create on GitHub a new repository I don't know where is it. Oops, sorry. Oops. I will find it. Yes, here it is. So the first thing I will do is to create a new. Oops. Sorry, I'm looking for the new repository.
So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new repository on GitHub, and we're going to push the module that we created with Quentin in the previous session to that repository.
Okay. I'm waiting for a second. Okay. This done, I will get the URL of the repository, and oops, sorry. And here, in the new source control action, we can send this module to the source control. Here I can choose either Git or SVN to send the sources. Here I put the URL I used before. I will use the credential of Git that are set on the computer. So it means as I am connected on Git on the computer, I am able to send the module to that SVN, to that Git repository. So now it's sending sources to the source control. Can take time.
But the internet connection is not really top-notch, so
no. So
unfortunately, you have to bear with us.
Okay, this was done. If I go back to my repository and refresh the page, I hope that my module will be there. Yes. So here, my module is now on this repository. Also, as any other tool, I can edit a file, and when a file is edited, sorry? And I refresh, I can see that the file has been modified. I put the mistake content in before because I like it. And now I can commit the module and put any message and commit it. And it will be pushed to the repository, to the source repository. So that's how we handle the sources in Jahia. Also we can get a module from sources in the same way, using a Git or SVN URL, and to get a module from an external repository. For example, if I go back to the repository before, I have a test one that I will bring back to my Jahia. It's not quite fast. Okay, oops, sorry. Sorry, very sorry.
That's fine. Here you go.
I want
to
go
back?
Yes. Oh, good. Okay, here I can take the SH URL of the repository, go to my Jahia. Oops, not that one. And now we'll create a module from the sources, from the repository.
So now we're checking out we're pulling the module from GitHub, so it will be available locally, and it will be known to the platform, so you'll be able to build it, and we're going to release it later from the studio.
Okay, so now I have the new module get directly from GitHub. And I think that's it for that part.
Okay, yep.
The revert command?
Actually, no, not yet the revert command. Maybe one time, but not yet. Yeah.
Does the action verb in the source control dropdown is generic or specific to each SVN or Git?
No, it's a generic. It's the same for all the source repository. I mean Git or SVN. It's not.
Yeah, you get Git and you get
Yes. No, yeah, but you have only one button. Oops, sorry. We have only one action in Jahia, because in Jahia we suppose that when you want to push, you want to commit first. So we only have one button, commit. So on SVN it will commit only, but on Git it will start to commit, then push the modification. So it will do both. Yes, but it's only one button in Jahia.
The idea is if you need more things, you can still use your Git client. Again, we have the files are accessible from your IDE, we saw that, but they're also accessible from your Git client of choice. So if you need to do things in a different way, you have access to those files and you can commit from there too. What we're giving you is something that's more of a commodity, so that you can easily, without going out of the studio, do the basic actions. If you want to do revert or things like that, then you're going to switch to your Git client, do it from there, and then you're going to see the changes in the studio anyway. It's still pretty streamlined. The fact that we have only one source in one location, we're much more relaxed about how we manage them, because we can use all the best tools for the job when we need sophisticated stuff, like the IDE when you need to create Java classes, filters, actions, whatever. And it's fine because they're all pointing to the same part of the file system. So really, it becomes very natural, very fast. Okay, so that was source management. What happens after, when you're happy with your module, you want to push it to different environments? You're going to test it. You're going to pull it maybe with the studio on the UAT environment. You might want the studio to be available in that UAT environment if you want to do quick fixes, because now it's possible and you can commit directly from there, which is really nice. But then you're going to want to push to production at some point when the complete validation cycle has been completed. So for that, we have the private app store. So again, it's a front end for any Maven repository. What it does is it lists all available modules, and it acts as a layer on top of the Maven repository to add the extra nice to have information, comments, screenshots, rating, documentation, very much like a mini GitHub, but for binaries, really. So in the end, it's tightly integrated with Jahia. It's easy to install because it's a module. And it's easy to customize because it's a module. So you can open the App Store templates in the studio. You can fork our App Store and create new features on your own private App Store that only makes sense for your specific project. Again, that's very open, so you can do whatever you want with this. It's an App Store for developers to share module releases. Very much like when you do classic Java development, you're going to push your binaries to a Maven repository, Nexus or something else, to make them available across the organization and across the environment. Here you're going to publish your Jahia modules to the Jahia private app store. So you're going to push new versions from the studio and distribute your modules in either a public or a private context. You can make your app store available online. That's what we're going to do, by the way. We're going to have the Jahia app store, the generic app store, available online, and anyone in the community will be able to add new modules there, and all of you and all of our customers will be able to pull modules from there if they want to use them. But you can also make it completely private, and that's, I think, what most of our customers will do, because they want to have control on what they're pushing there and what they're using in production. So you can make it private or public. No middleman. What do we mean by that? We mean that right now, when you want to push something to production, you usually have to call somebody who has file system access to production with a high level of credentials, so that today they can push the war file into production and deploy it and read the logs to check if it didn't go well, etc., etc. Right now, with our app store, you won't need to go through that process. The developer, once the release has been done, it will be available in the App Store, and then all you need is Jahia access, root Jahia access, administrator Jahia access to pull the new version of the module or the new module in version 1.0 from the App Store into production. So no extra steps. Again, streamlining the process, removing the clutter and removing the delays and the obstacles, the roadblocks to get you from development to production. So for customers, download and install new modules straight from the GUI. Update installed modules straight from the GUI. And all very easy to understand, very simple, straightforward interface for that. So about the release management itself. So we have one-click release from the studio. We're going to show you that in a minute. You're going to be able to trigger your release from the studio and tag your module, make it ready for production. We use the Maven release command. Again, tight integration with Maven. Same thing as if you did it in the command line. You can do it from the studio. The release process completely integrated in the studio, and then you distribute either on the private or public app store or directly on the Maven repository. If you remember the diagram I showed you first, you can bypass the app store if you're not interested in that. We'll still give you that possibility. So we're going to do a release.
Thank you. Good. So first thing I want to show you is a store, because if I want to push my module to a store, I need to have a store. So here, what the store look like. So actually, I put some modules on it, so it's not real modules. So I hope it will work. Yeah. So it looks more or less the forge on our actual Jahia 6. Actual site. I don't know if some of you went there. So it's pretty much the same. Difference that now our forge, our store is using Maven to store the artifact. So here's the forge, and what I will do is send the module we created before to that forge. So first thing, I took the address of the forge. Then here, go here. As I did modification, first I will commit them, because it will not allow. Oops. I have some. So now it's committing my module. Take time. Okay, once it's done, in the distribution button, I can release the module. In the release, I have two possibilities. Send it to a forge or to a Maven repository. We'll choose Maven forge. We have to set the URL of the forge and the enough credentials to be able to deploy the module on the forge.
So those are Jahia credentials. They're the Jahia username, root username and password on the Jahia Forge Jahia instance running the Forge the Jahia app store.
Oops. Sorry. It happens. What I did wrong? Nothing. Oh, I missed the password.
You're in QWERTY.
Yes, I'm in QWERTY, yeah. No, it don't want to connect to the forge. Oh no, I know why. Sorry. I have to. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a demo effect. No. I'm sorry, I cannot show you.
Yeah. Somehow we can't connect to the distant. Okay, we'll try to fix it, and if we can show it later.
Okay, so the goal of the manipulation is to release the module, and then in the forge, directly in Jahia, you see the administration of the forge, and you can change the properties of your module, like if you were on the forge directly. So what you are supposed to see is, here I will log on the module, on the forge I mean, on the store. I'm sorry, we changed the name. And here, I should see that kind of pages. And here I am able to do anything on the module itself, even if I have several versions of it, and if I did several releases, I am able to edit things and manage my module. So that's it.
Okay. So the idea is to make the release process as simple as possible. Oops. And make it completely streamlined, so that you can really worry only about the development and not about how to get things to production, automate. Much easier to make a continuous integration server, for instance, that way. It's really nice. So in the end, we have module management screens. You can start a module, so make the module available to be used in sites in the studio. You saw the interface. You can, when you get a module from the App Store, just press the start button, and you can start using it right away on any of the sites where you want to deploy it. You can stop a module, so that will temporarily deactivate it. So that means if it had content types declared in the module, they will not be available anymore. So corresponding content will remain in the system, but it won't be accessible anymore. The system will ignore them because it will not know the definition anymore. It will treat it as if the module was removed completely from the server, even though it's only temporarily deactivated. So you can deactivate and reactivate, which is quite nice in test environments. When you're testing a specific module, you can stop it and start it. If you think it is impacting the rest of the platform, you can really fine-tune your test that way. And in the end, you can completely undeploy it. If you find that you have a faulty module, for some reason you want to roll back, you can completely undeploy the module. It removes the module from the server. All the definitions are this time unregistered. So that means you're losing really the content. And you're really rollbacking. So when you do it at the site level, we're going to see that when you do it at the site level, you can enable a module on the site. So you can take the module functionality and make it available to users of a specific site. Just like you can do today in Jahia 6.6 in the module management administration panel, you can decide which module goes on every site. The limitation we have today in 6.6 is that you can't change your mind. If you have made a module available on site A, well, change your mind, too bad. You have to recreate the site. And now you can disable it. And when you disable it, it will make the module's functionality not available on the site anymore, and it will prompt the user for optional content deletion. So if I enable my news module, for instance, on the site, start creating news items with it, then disable it, the system will ask me if I want to delete all news items from the site before I do the disable, so that when I do the undeploy, I get back to a clean state with no unregistered definition in my repository. It will do the cleanup for me. So that's quite nice to have. So in the end, to really tie up what we've seen since this morning, since Serge's first presentation, we've got OSGI, hot deployment, version management. We can deploy, cleanly undeploy, revert to a previous version of a module. That's really nice. In production, that's really a safety net. That's the safety net a lot of people have asked us for. Because if you deploy by mistake, now you can roll back. And that's all rendered possible by OSGI. We have the studio, Quentin's demo, all the new features, the new tools, integrated with Maven, SV, and Git, like we saw with David at the beginning of the presentation. So all these things streamlined so that you can be fast and not worry, and only worry about developing good code, and not worry about packaging, about deploying. We give you all the tools so that you can just focus on the code and then make the release mechanism as streamlined as possible with the private app store. So in the end, we're giving you those new toys, and we want you to play with them, and again to develop great web apps, great software using our platform. And most importantly, we hope that you'll have fun doing it. Because in the end, that's what makes the difference when you develop between a nice platform and a great platform, is how much you enjoy it because it's fun. So we're going to try to make it as fun as possible. That's what we've tried in this release. And we're going to try to go even further in the next ones, and always try to make it fun and easy to develop with our platform. So thank you. If you have any question, yes, go ahead. So in the end, let's imagine a real life case. You've got a website. Oh, sorry, the question. How is a user impacted by a new version of a module? The hot deployment of the module. If you have a real life example, you've got a website that's going to run a set of modules, web project, and let's say you have a news module. You introduce a new feature, so a new version of a module can either bring things for contributors, maybe it will bring new node types or new properties in an existing node type, or it will bring new functionality for the end users. It really depends on the module. But in the end, as soon as it's deployed in production, all the functionality will be available to the relevant people. If it's functionality for the end users, for the visitors, they will see the new functionality right away. If it's functionality for contribution, the contributors will see that right away too in edit or contribute mode. So in the end, it really depends on your module. The good thing is the hot deploy, you have no downtime. So you just click and it's done. You can have different cases. Sometimes you want to undeploy a module because you don't want your users to use it anymore. So yeah, let's take this example. The example was I have a social sharing toolbar, for instance, and I undeploy it. What happens? Well, for end users, the social sharing toolbar disappears, and all the social sharing features that were triggered by the toolbar are not available either. If they had Java classes or actions having an interaction with any of the social networks, they'll disappear. Another nice case, and that's a good one for the rollback, is that maybe you're deploying a new version of the toolbar. You had, I don't know, Facebook, Twitter, and Dig, and all of a sudden you want to add Flickr or any other, or Instagram. And the Instagram feature doesn't really work. Realize that after it's gone into production, you've got users complaining that it's not doing what it's supposed to do. Well, you can revert back to the old version instantly, and all the Instagram features will disappear, and you'll have rolled back to the version of your module where you only have Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, and with no downtime instantly. Maybe we can show the interaction with the App Store again.
I hope. I don't know if it will work because it doesn't work the first time. I don't know if I will be able to show you how the administration of Jahia is connected to the Forge to get the module that are on the Forge. No, it's not driven by the store. His name is the store. The Forge is the intern name. Sorry, it's not driven by the store. It's driven by the server where you are. The server itself, not the store. I will show you. Here I go in my server administration, and here, that's why I call it Forge, you can add many stores as you wish. And now, in modules, just wait a second, okay. We have a new tab named Available Modules, and here you will see all the modules that are available on the Forge.
I think that's the part that I missed, that it's part of the production server configuration point at the Forge.
Yes.
All your server should point at the Forge. All your environments will point to the Forge, and the store, sorry, will point to the store, and that way they'll be able to pull any binary that's been released on the store. You can pull them from any environment.
The store is ultimately hosted on Jahia as well?
the store, you can deploy it on any Jahia, even in your intranet. So it uses yes, it uses Jahia itself. Yes, it's a Jahia module.
It is a Jahia module, yeah. It's an HTTP connection, so that means you can filter out access. You can put it in a kind of private DMZ or whatever, and do all the reverse proxy settings you need to make sure that only authorized servers can connect to it.
Second part, is the release management going to support cluster environments as well?
The release is supposed to do on a developer platform, and I don't know if we will support.
You have to pull on every cluster node.
Oh, I don't know. Sorry.
I think you have to pull on every cluster node. You're going to have to deploy your versions on each cluster node. We don't have cluster synchronization for modules yet. We're working on that. We're working on cluster tools to streamline that part too, so that you can, if you have 10 nodes in production, you just click a button and all 10 nodes get the same version of a module. Right now you'd have to connect on each of them and do the update manually. But we're working on those extra tools. Hopefully they'll be available.
Will there still be a sequence required, or could you really just kick them off in parallel?
With OSGI, we'd have to look into that. I haven't read the documentation for that part yet, but it's possible that we'll still use the same. We still have the same concept of processing server, so we might have the same constraint, probably the same constraint as today. Finish with the processing server when you do a deployment, so that the processing server is the last to update the definitions to avoid issues with the content updates in the process. But again, we're really working on those cluster tools to make this easier and to again streamline that for you. We know it's one of it's the next subject we have to tackle because it's another process that could be made more efficient, more streamlined, and less error prone. So we're going to work on that with external tools probably to allow you to manage like a farm of clusters and make sure that whatever you do, whatever module you pull from a store, you synchronize every cluster node with that module. For a new release,
you have to download it, then I can't remember if it's automatically activated when you update it, but in any case, you have an information as the module has to be updated, and you can download it, and so it's to update it, and then I think it is automatically started. While
yeah, so basically it will prompt you for an upgrade for that module. So if I have a release 1.2 and there's a release 1.3 on the store, I'll have a prompt in the Jahia module administration screen that will tell me, oh, this module has a 1.3. So then I can decide if I want to upgrade to 1.3 or stay on 1.2 or revert to 1.1. I have complete control over that, but then as soon as I push the button, it's done in live preview.
If you don't want to start it automatically, you have to stop it before updating it. If it's stopped, yeah, you don't have to.
How the app stores deals with
you can view the dependencies. You have that information on the module.
On the developer has to set it in the information. It's not handled yet, but it will have to.
Yeah, so you can see the developer. Well, we saw that in the previous presentation. The developer still has to handle the dependencies, and now he has a dedicated panel for that. So you can declare your dependencies in the studio. In the end, you'll have the information available when you view the description of the module. You can see what dependencies it has. And of course, if you try to install a module that depends on other modules that are not installed on the platform, you'll get an error for that. But
it will not start. No, you will be.
It will not start. Yeah. It will refuse to start.
It doesn't work in a row.
You can always download the jar, but it will refuse to start.
My question is about
No, you have to do that. You still, because you might not want to update the other module. I mean, if you're running in production, okay, let's say you have module A version 1.3. and it depends on module B version 1.3 also, and then you have a 1.4 version for module A that depends on the 1.4 version of module B. The problem is in production, you don't want the system to do that silently for you because you might not have tested module B in version 1.4. So instead, the new version will not start. So you're going to have to handle that dependency yourself. You're going to have either to revert to 1.3, and again, it's the push of a button in the new system, or you're going to have to update module B to 1.4 and keep module A in 1.4. But it's a manual operation because we want the administrator of the platform to do that consciously and not have the system choose that kind of things for him. Production, it's too. It's really we can't update things silently without the administrator being able to control this. So he'll see the problem and he'll have to choose how to solve it, either by updating module B to 1.4 or reverting module A to 1.3.
Propose to download all the dependencies, but we hadn't the time to implement it right now. It's the first iteration, but it's in the roadmap. Yes, we know that it will solve a lot of time. And by the way, there is one system that does that. It's not in the Java world; it's in the PHP world. Typo. Typo does that very well. It's a source of inspiration, so we will inspire from them.
On the production server? Okay, so if Maven is not available on the production server...
To release is to deploy. It's to deploy, not to release. That's it?
No,
to pull. Yeah, to deploy the module. So to deploy the module, it's just you can simply copy a jar at the right place, and it will do all the trick as it is for Jahia 6.6 right now.
Like today, when you push the war into WebInf var shared module, it will deploy automatically. You can still do the same thing in Jahia 7 with the new jars.
You don't need any Maven on the production server. Yes, exactly. Yes.
All the App Store and the Maven binding is there to make it nicer than and give you the possibility to do it with a GUI and to have really fine control over what you're doing. But in the end, if you're already enforcing things in your scripts, in your procedures, to get, in the end, it's getting a jar from a Nexus or somewhere else into a Jahia installation. And that's just copying a file in the end. So if you want to do all this manually, if you want to enforce all your version management and all this, and push automatically new versions to production without the use of the GUI and without the error reporting of the GUI, by all means, you can do it. So the question is if we can, instead of browsing or viewing the available modules on the App Store page, if you can browse the Maven repository directly. Not from our GUI, but if you've got a script that does this, of course you can.
Nexus provide an interface for that.
Conceptually, the App Store is like a proxy for the Nexus in the sense that it just adds a couple of nice features on top of the Nexus. We saw the comments, the rating, the fact that you can upload documentation, things like that. So if you don't want to use that,
if you don't use the private store,
you don't need it. We saw that first in my first diagram, that you can push your release directly to Nexus and bypass completely the App Store.
exactly.
Yeah, it's not mandatory.
If you want to deploy, then you want to bypass the store because if you just push.
Yeah, you'll deploy manually without, you won't declare any App Store in your administration. You won't have any binding with your environment and any App Store, and you'll query the Nexus directly, get the jars directly from the Nexus, and push them into production by copying the files over.
You also be able to upload a jar through the interface of the administration of Jahia. So you may not have to copy it directly to the server, but you can upload it through the
Yeah, you can upload it in your browser. You can upload the jar in the browser directly in the administration. So you don't have you don't need file system access even if you don't use the store. That's true. Yes?
Because the Forge is only... Oops, sorry, the question is the store is able to to manage metadata for testing or things like that, QA. At the end, you can do everything you want with the store, so you can put any information. But things to know is the store only handle release version of. You cannot put snapshots on. So if it's part of a release, you can do everything you want on a store. And
again, it's a module, so it's templates. So you can, if you need to add more fields. Yeah. You can update the definition, extend the definition that we use to manage the releases with your own metadata if you want to, and update the templates and the GUI to display that information. Again, it's still completely open. You can fork our app store and add whatever you want there.